Hey guys, Justin Carey. I highly doubt I'm even going to post this video because there are 1,000 landmines that I can potentially fall in with getting canceled. But I'm trying to flush this conversation out in my head. And I know it's satire. I'm wearing a Buffalo Bills body lotion, a serial killer satire shirt when I'm talking about a heavy subject such as murder and race. And race is the hot button thing. If you're on planet Earth and you have social media, or you've been alive and you're a teenager all the way to an old man or woman, you know that is a complex, very opinionated topic. And I'm going to try to just poke at a little spot right now because it's flooding my feed. And if you are, and this is also going to talk about social manipulation, because if you are conservative or your opinions lean right, your feed's probably getting also plummeted with that Decarlos Brown stabbing that poor young lady in the neck, Ukraine refugee, and her dying, and that look of shock in her eye. And it's horrible, and it's meant to do a few things: enrage you, have a conversation about mental health. People are talking about DEI. People are talking about race. But I'm trying to look at history and themes that I've seen in my short time on Earth when it comes to other high-profile situations involving law enforcement and race, and what this is ultimately meant to do. And another side note, the reason I mentioned that conservative and I'm getting flooded on my feed means another thing. If you are more liberal leaning, your feed is probably not picking up on those kinds of things. And I go to a website called All Sides, and it has headlines, and then it has a rating of the headlines in the news, daily stuff. And there's like 5 categories of like middle, where both sides are reporting, more right, more left, only left. And it's unique how stories in the media and ways headlines are approached to enrage people, to sensationalize the story, or flat out suppress it. So if you only go to one well of knowledge, such as liberal media, you might get a blip of it, but it's going to be talked about the topic in a certain way to make you dismiss it. But if it's the same topic that shares more conservatives values, I know I'm being vague, but I'm sure you're reading between the lines, it's going to be pushed to you to enrage you. And it's the same exact thing. The left and right does it universally. Like, you can't get away from it with all topics. And that's why I'm constantly telling people to go to both liberal and conservative sites. And my conservative friends go, F that, I'm not listening to that woke stuff. And then my liberal friends goes, F that, I'm not going to that MAGA extreme hate groups, conspiracy thing. Like, people, you're being brainwashed, and I see it. And the biggest step is to realize that you can be susceptible to brainwashing and bias without even noticing it. I am. And I try my best, and that's why I always tell my biblical faith, that's the only thing that's unshakable. All this other opinionated stuff, I can be wrong, and I probably am wrong. And stuff I'm saying right now can be wrong. Research it yourself. Don't just take one person's opinions. But what I'm noticing with this story is it reinforces something I've always seen through conservative media, which is to make you scared of the black community. And anytime there's talk about pew-pew violence, the left wants to blame guns, the right wants to blame mental illness, the right wants to put everyone in jail and mental facilities, the left wants to regulate guns, which is ridiculous because the only people following the regulations are law-abiding citizens. And there's so much more minutia details within every single topic. And the right and left don't cover it properly. Now this is horrible. And I think back to all of the viral videos of police interactions with African Americans that over the last 15 years, and the direct consequences of that, because it was meant to do one thing, which is enrage people and create more distrust in law enforcement, which had something called the Ferguson effect, which cops became less proactive, so then the criminals were more emboldened. I mean, look it all up. So what ended up happening was by thousands and thousands of people were further victimized because of police not cracking down. And to pin the tail on the donkey of racist cops are the cause of keeping the African American community down was so short-sighted, but it's the easiest thing to process, because actual racism, systemic racism, is a harder pill to swallow, very complex, and the motivations and ways that are done are very covert, where it's easier to just point to a situation and go, oh, yep, this cop's racist. And that was very frustrating for me in law enforcement, because African Americans, there is a disproportionate crime statistics, and that's not due to because they're black. It's due because poverty and crime go hand in hand, and all these things that keep African Americans in poverty perpetuate this. And it goes even deeper into music and what's being propagated as, womenizing and drugs and gang culture and whatnot, so that young African Americans can glorify that and go down some dangerous paths. And this is my only conspiracy theory that I'm going to say, which I'm sure people are going to hate me for this. I've never heard anybody say this. But I just got this feeling. I got this itch I can't scratch, and I've thought it for many, many years, because I've watched plenty of documentaries on the LA riots, the Detroit riots, what I went through as a law enforcement officer with people just straight up hating me. Any African American I pull over, putting a camera in my face, going, you only pulled me over because I'm black. And it was this constant narrative I heard over and over and over. So many interactions, fighting with people that got another felony on their charge because they're fighting over some stupid little thing, because in their mind, and it comes back to responsibility. And I think there is a purposeful narrative, a diabolical narrative that, I know I sound like a freaking crazy person saying this stuff, but it could be true, it could not be true. I think there's a purposeful narrative to putting those videos out by whatever you think is behind the scenes, to further keep African Americans down by victimhood mentality. There's lots of ways that African Americans are victimized. Again, more complex, harder to wrap your mind around. And I've researched this thing many, many, many times. I wish I'd done it recently so I could sound more articulate, but no, I'm only talking about a certain segment. But when you make it so I'm never wrong, or the only reason I'm being looked at is because I am black. I heard this constantly. Only reason I'm being pulled over. The only reason, and that can happen, I'm sure it does happen, but out of 100 interactions with white people, black people, and Hispanic people, white people, I mean, they say the same things, but it's a different one. They're lower poverty people that are into drugs. They're always going, why aren't you out catching the murderers? Why aren't you out catching the real criminals? So that's their deflection. But African Americans disproportionately, hugely go, it's not that. They don't use that excuse. It's, you're just targeting me. And I'm like, you're doing something wrong. and that's never your fault. And I noticed a correlation, not just with black and white, with everybody. People that end up in the prison system, the jail system, learn to never take responsibility. We all make mistakes. We all have sin in our life. But if we constantly blame our upbringing, we blame other things and don't take personal responsibility, that never fixes it, and that leads you to a path of crime or bad behavior. So I know I'm getting off in the giggly weeds with this whole thing, but I got a feeling there was purposeful by pumping those videos out of cops, because there's 1,000 bad interactions, probably a day, violent interactions between law enforcement against white, Hispanic, black. Cops don't really, the media doesn't care. Those things aren't going to go viral if it's, well, maybe now Hispanic, but because of other reasons. With white, no one cares. No one cares. They're going to go, he deserved it. Don't fight with cops. And for law enforcement to try to take someone in custody and go make the wrong moves in a violent encounter where your adrenaline's going, it's horrible. I know. I live in Michigan. We just had that officer acquitted in Grand Rapids for shooting that guy he was fighting with, and everyone wanted to make it a race issue. But if you watch those documentaries, what's the one on the big one? I'm mixing them all up. Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, and then George Floyd. There's a freaking wonderful free documentary. I can't remember what it's called, but just type in documentary about the George Floyd and how much stuff was suppressed. The footage, him eating drugs on a prior traffic stop months prior, and they had to take him to the ambulance. Him ODing, the stuff coming out, the video, where they didn't want to show it, all of it right away. They just wanted to show the infuriating whatever minutes of that officer on his neck and painting him out as this horrible, horrible cop. And no one understands unless you're really in it. I mean, you go walk through the dangerous part of any town at night. You're gonna be approached by minorities that maybe aren't having your best interest at heart, but that's not because they're minorities. All of us are exactly the same. And if you go through a white trailer park that's crime ridden, you're going to have the same exact issues. And cops are the only thing that's holding the line between the wild, wild west and what we want to live in. Everyone wants peace, security, but when we just point to all these things as danger, 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 and we're going to always have sin, we're going to have some horrible, horrible people. And I get it. In my community here, we had a police officer get shot and killed that I knew, and the suspect just prior had been caught felon in possession of a firearm. But that was years ago when jails are concerned with COVID and kept releasing people. So instead of sending, and we live in a liberal county where you go to another county that's more conservative, people go to prison. You go to ours, more liberal county, bigger city, so it's the same. They just let them back out, let them back out, let them back out, let them back out. So this guy gets let back out, and then shortly after shoots and kills a deputy. I don't have all the answers. Knowledge is power, though. What did they do back in the day? They put frickin' everybody in a boat, put them to Australia. Said, and what did we do back in the day? We freaking put all these homeless people and psychopaths, and we just put them in mental institutions. But then Geraldo Rivera showed the inside of a mental institution and how funding had got cut off, and it was just zombie land in there because he just pumped them full of medicine. And I've been around real evil. I've arrested real evil. There is no one. You don't understand it until you're right by it. And just reading headlines, just watching these little viral clips doesn't paint a really good picture of it. And we're just going to argue back and forth on what the answer is, and then you mix race into it, and I say the wrong thing in here, and someone just takes a little snippet of that, and it sounds bad in that one sentence because you don't get context before and after, and it just smears it on there. And then all my liberal people watch that, go, yep, see, that's this hate-filled Christian. I was right. And then they could stick a label on you, and dismiss you. But we're all wrong. We're all trying to work it out, trying to process it just like you are. But learn from other sources. And maybe I don't even know why I'm doing this video, just to have a different perspective on things, that you could talk probably for days on end and do pros and cons, and someone could debate me and wipe the floor clean with me. But these are just my personal observations of going through life, trying to figure it out. And yeah. And here's another thing. Our adversaries love to pump social media anger and hate through memes. So when you see anti-right or anti-left satire comedy memes, sometimes those aren't coming from some smart kid in a basement in the United States. They could be coming from China, Russia, and that's just further to dig you into your bunker and go, yep, I'm right. And then you share that, and all your friends that agree with that same kind of mentality, yep, and then you could write off the people as others. We're seeing that. We saw that with Biden. We saw that with Trump. You can have strong opinions. Trump can't be wrong ever, even if you hate the man. And that's what I debate with a lot of times. I go, yeah, he's filled with problems, just like Biden's filled with problems. But Biden was not always wrong. And Trump can't always be wrong. And if you always pick the opposite of what this political party is going to do, that's not complex thinking. That's stupid, hive, tribal thinking. We all want to succeed. I don't care who's at the helm of this. But that's why my hope and trust is not within man. And everything around me will go to crap someday. Hopefully not in my lifetime, but it could. And that's all right, because I have a hope and trust in something greater. All right, guys. I don't know if I should post this video. It's complex, but I guess the goal of it is be thirsty for knowledge. Don't just get it from Facebook and CNN and Fox News. Find some people that you respect and that are smarter than you, and dive in, because I haven't done that for this topic, specifically with this stabbing. But I'm just showing you what I'm thinking is going on. It's just to further the hate, and it's not going to be constructive by any means, other than, locking up criminals a little bit more that have that pattern. Hopefully that'll happen, but it's not a white or black thing, guys. And the reason that African Americans can be in a light of more criminal-like behavior is because of systemic racism, not just because they're born that way. And that whole, what's that thing back in New York where someone's, because this is another thing that's happening with this whole narrative of, look at how no one helped her. 5 people standing around, no one helped her. They just want to mind their own business. And that's nothing new. That was back in the 70s or 80s, that lady screaming for help she's brutally raped and murdered, and so many people heard it at a nearby apartment complex, and no one called, no one came out. It just becomes white noise when you're in those kind of situations and you think someone else is going to do it. And that's how evil succeeds, when good men do nothing. It's sad, but it's okay. All right, bye-bye. I wasted enough of your time.